Hi, my name's Dana Thompson, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've worked in private practice for the past 15 years, treating primarily adolescents. Um, and the number one mental health issue I treat for is anxiety, no big surprise. Um, and obviously, you can imagine with what is happening right now with the COVID pandemic, anxiety is just grown exponentially, and the demand is very high in the mental health field right now to meet the needs of everyone out there in such an unprecedented time. So I can tell you from experience of being mostly a cognitive behavioral therapist in theory and using that approach with my clients over the course of years, that I was finding that cognitive behavioral therapy is really beneficial. And I was incorporating some mindfulness techniques and breathing, but I still felt like something was lacking. And a couple years ago, I really did some soul searching and trying to figure out how to best meet those needs so that it would help improve my clients' ability to effectively manage anxiety, as well as depression and trauma, you know, and numerous items that they're dealing with, to the best of my ability. And, I've really incorporated an integrative model of mind body wellness. But through the course of that and going to trainings and reading research of the leading experts in the field, I found that, anxiety is a whole body experience. And so our approach to treating this needs to be an entire body process. And one of the best ways to do that is through incorporating yoga into the mindfulness, meditation, and breathing exercises. It's one of the best ways to teach breathing and mindfulness. And so because of that, it sparked the idea to team up with the co-founder of our Illuminate group, my longtime friend from middle school, Ann Fields, that's a yoga instructor. And I'm going to hand over and let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Ann Fields. I'm founder of Peaceful Poses Kids Yoga. I have my RYT 200, and my RCYT, which is a registered children's yoga teacher. I teach children, toddlers through teens, and I've had trainings in trauma-informed yoga. And we decided to form this group, Illuminate, so it empowers teens. So at the end of a yoga class, a traditional yoga class, we always say the light in me sees and honors the light in you. And this sparked the name of our group, Illuminate, because what we want to do with teens is empower them and spark that light that's already there inside of them and help it illuminate, and use the tools of yoga and mindfulness and what Dana does and have it infuse and work all together. So that is where Illuminate started. And it's always been a very exciting venture for both of us.
Yes. So if you were a client in my practice recently, I've been saying over and over again, when we're talking about the anxiety that this pandemic has caused in the quarantine, I've said over and over again, the best thing you can do for yourself in terms of building immunity and really being as healthy as you possibly can be is to learn to effectively manage the anxiety. Because we know that higher levels of cortisol are released in the brain when we are more anxious, and especially with chronic anxiety. So that cortisol takes a toll on your immune system and reduces immunity, and also is harder on your organs overall in the long term. So really, really important to do that. And so we'll start out with a breathing exercise to kind of get us into the right mindset in terms of being mindful and in our body and out of our head a little bit, which we know, I'll talk later about anxiety. And the number one thing we know it does is causes overthinking. Almost everyone I know says that. That monkey brain that just goes on and we can't get out of our head. So we're going to do a quick breathing exercise with Ann to kind of get us more in our body and start to relax and ground ourselves.
What I like to do when we're ready to take a couple deep breaths is sit in something that you probably know when you were little is crisscross applesauce. So what this is in yoga, this is called easy pose. So I invite you to sit there. If there's a different pose that works better for you, if you want to sit in a chair or on your bed or a different place, please go ahead and do that as well. My back is tall and my hands are on my knees. When whatever that looks like for you, that's fine too. So we're going to do something called an equal breath. And so we're going to breathe in and I'm going to count as I breathe. And you don't need to count. You just breathe as you go. So we're going to inhale through our nose and we're going to count to 4. So we're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to exhale through our nose for 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And our last time, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And if your eyes are closed, you can flutter them a little bit and open your eyes. And just take another deep breath in and sigh it out. Notice how you feel. Maybe you feel better, maybe you feel more grounded, or maybe alert, or maybe even a little bit more relaxed.
I know I feel more relaxed from doing that. And just a side note, breathing is the #1 way to regulate your anxiety. So really important to be in touch with where is my breathing because anxiety is a whole body experience. So obviously we have the cognitive part, which is the thoughts that are going on, which most of the time are those unhelpful negative thoughts that keep fueling that never-ending cycle of anxiety. But we also know that anxiety causes rapid heart rate, shorter breathing, more shallow breathing. Oftentimes people get sweaty, their muscles get really tense, which is another reason for incorporating this body work along with it to, optimally manage the anxiety in all ways. So if we're going to take a minute to shift back to the cognitive part. So, in terms of, cognitive behavioral theory, what we know to be true is our thoughts have, really a lot to do with fueling the anxiety, staying stuck in the anxiety. And most of the time, those are the negative, unhelpful thoughts that, I use the analogy of a merry-go-round. It's kind of like getting stuck on a merry-go-round and you're just going around and around and around because that's what's happening in the brain. It's this never-ending cycle of these thoughts. What I hear right now with COVID is this is never going to end. It's just never going to end. It's going to go on forever, for years and things like that. Or my family's going to get sick, or I'm going to get sick. Also, I'm not going to have any friends when I return to school because I've been out of school. I'm not talking to my friends as much. I feel very disconnected, which for sure, that is happening right now. And I think that is the cause of a lot of the stress, is not having those ways, those outlets, those connections that help buffer anxiety as well, help distract us, quite frankly, from some of those things, from ramping up to a higher level. So what I'm telling everybody, because there's a lot of difficulty with the thought of, I don't have control of anything right now. It's unpredictable. I don't know what's going to happen with this, whether, school's going to be closed next fall, or, I'm going to have to do online learning again, or whether I'm going to be able to, play sports. And I know for sure, I think it's important to acknowledge that COVID has caused a grief process in a lot of the teens that I've worked with. And I know it is heartbreaking, and it's important to acknowledge because there has been a loss of very significant events that cannot be, redone at a later time. Especially, I think of my seniors in high school and even seniors in college, that they were looking so forward to being with their friends this final phase, and to having their last spring sports, and important activities, musicals and prom and graduation and all of those important things. So I think it's important to identify those emotions also and allow yourself to grieve them. And then in the process, I mean, that can be a part of the anxiety and negative thought process. One thing that you can control is your reaction, your response to what is happening. And that is a choice between staying stuck in the negative thoughts versus deciding to press pause, get off the merry-go-round, and decide I am going to adopt, or I'm going to actively and intentionally search for more positive things to focus on. And what I find is when people are effectively, sometimes it requires a lot of help and prompting, but when they're effectively allowed or able to identify some positive things, or even if it's just more evidence-based logical thinking, because when we're anxious, our emotional brain takes over and all logic flies out the window. So we have to get back in touch with, okay, are these thoughts true? And if not, what is a more positive or helpful frame to put this in to ultimately help myself and decrease the anxiety, choose a different outcome or alternative. So just an example of that is evidence shows us that, they're already talking about a process of reopening things and a step and phase process. So this is not going to last forever. It will end. And we have evidence to support that. Do we know the exact timing? No. But it will end at some point. So even focusing just on that is a more positive way to view it. One thing I think about is, and I'm inspired by, is people learning that they are much stronger than they think and can persevere through tough times. I always say, if you're a client of mine, you would hear me say many times that the most growth and valuable lessons happen out of the greatest challenges in our lives. They generally don't come out of, or we're not inclined to reflect if it's smooth sailing all the time, because we don't need to. But when we are faced with these challenges in this unprecedented time, it requires us to dig deeper and to think of other alternative solutions to things. So just a couple examples of things that I consider secondary benefits, but super valuable lessons that have come out of this that have been shared by some of my clients in the past couple of weeks, and might help you as an idea of things or spark other ideas. And they can be great coping skills. Are things like one of my clients started taking pictures and was showing me the pictures, and she is a super talented photographer, and she was telling me how she was getting in these different positions to get the right angle. We had never talked about photography before, and I've seen her for at least a year or more. And so I said, hey, like, not only is that a great coping skill, but could this be something you want to explore further? Could it be maybe a future career interest or hobby? I also had another client tell me that she discovered how much she loves writing and receiving handwritten letters. She and her friends have started writing each other letters, mailing them to keep in touch, and then they have something to look forward to. When they receive and they get to read what the other person wrote. Kind of old school, reminds me of when I was in college before cell phones and everybody had a laptop. And the internet, we used to write letters all the time. So that was really cool to hear one of my high school students tell me that. As well as I hear people saying other things like they're painting and they're spending more time with their family, playing board games together, or having family movie night, or time every day as a family. And because we've all been forced to have this major pause in our lives, that's been something that is almost kind of like a new discovery or time that they didn't have before, because everybody is so busy with work and activities that fill up a lot of our free time. So, looking at it in terms of, are there valuable and positive lessons? Things I've learned about myself, increased self-awareness. That's a big part of the therapy process, is discovering those things about yourself. I do think that this has been a time where people have learned a lot more about themselves. And so, those are our mental strategies and really requires some practice of, shifting gears. I call it changing channels from, the negative or unhelpful thoughts to the more positive or helpful thoughts. Very common strategy in the therapy world. But also, the more time you spend, the easier it gets, practicing that reframing and the more positive thoughts, and also checking in with yourself. Like, how do I feel as a result of focusing on even forward thinking? That's what I've been telling people with a positive thought. It's like, start to think about a more positive future. What are you looking forward to in a sense? When the quarantine ends and you're able to be out again in more normal life, what have you missed that you are so looking forward to doing? And maybe there's things you did know about yourself, but maybe there's some things that you didn't. And, now that you're realizing, maybe there was some anxiety tied to school, but now you're like, oh, I can't wait to go back to school. Just as an idea. Or maybe it's, getting back to your sports, hanging out with your friends, being able to do all of those things that you used to do prior to this COVID virus. So now I think it's important that I've explained kind of the cognitive approach. Also, you can integrate like regular mindfulness activities, and that's just basically bringing something into your conscious awareness. Part of regular self-care and my check-in with clients during this time has been asking them, if they are getting outside. Being outdoors right now is a great mindfulness exercise of, I practice what I preach. So I went for my nature walk this morning and, using your senses, noticing the things around you, being present. There's so much time. Anxiety does this. It hijacks our brain and we are not aware of what's happening around us because we're so in our head. So being in nature and just noticing things like, what do I see? What do I hear? What's the temperature like? Are there other things I can feel? And, really appreciating, that getting outdoors, especially as the weather's getting warmer. But another part of mindfulness as I transition back to Anne, a great practice of that is being present in our body and being in touch with our muscles tight. And how can we relax them through breathing and holding these poses? Because yoga is one of the best complementary ways to relieve, muscle tightness, but also regulate emotions. Certain poses actually will relieve anxiety, depression, will help you focus better. And also we know the latest research proves that it's also a way for people to release body memories of especially non-verbally stored trauma just by holding certain poses. So I will transition back to Anne and she will explain more about and show you some of those poses as well as doing the breathing exercises.
What we're going to do now is we're going to go into child's pose. So the next series of poses that I have for you all help with anxiety. So anything forward folding is comforting. So that is where we're headed. So what I'm going to do is move my yoga bolster and come on back here so you can see me a little bit better. So I'm on my knees and I'm tall. So I'm in hero pose. So I invite you to come here if this works for you and your yoga. And from here, we're just going to hinge from our hips and forward fold and take our hands straight out, and maybe your head touches the ground, maybe it doesn't. So this is called child's pose. This can be done on the floor, this can be done in your bed, wherever you want to do child's pose. This is a great place to be. I call it going off the grid. I like to go off the grid and go into child's pose, and my head is usually lower down, but then you can't hear me. So let me explain what I do here. I just gently close my eyes. If that's something that works best in your practice, you can. And we can breathe in through our nose and breathe out. And again, we're going to breathe in through our nose and breathe out. You might feel your lower back stretch a little. You might just feel more comforted just being in a pose like this with this forward fold. So from here, we're just gently gonna curl our toes under, and we're gonna roll back, and we're gonna stand up into mountain pose. So what I need to do is just gently adjust my camera here so everybody can see me. And so here's our mountain pose. So in mountain pose, I have my feet on the ground. You can feel the four corners of your feet on the ground. My palms are forward, and yours can be wherever it works best for you. And I'm standing as tall as I can. And everybody's mountain pose is gonna look different because we're all made differently, and that's okay. So in mountain pose here, you can even take a few deep breaths where we take an inhale up, and we're gonna exhale down. Let's do one more like that. Breathing in and breathing out. And then from here, I'm gonna turn profile. We're gonna go to a forward fold. So my knees have a soft bend. I never lock my knees back. And I hinge again from my hips, and my head hangs down, and my hands are gonna hang down. So this is a forward fold. There's a couple different ways we can do this. You can go deeper in it if you can or you want. From here, you can even hold your elbows right here with your head going down. And again, we can take a few deep breaths, breathing in and breathing out. And again, breathing in and breathing out. Releasing your elbows, and we're gently rolling up, just one vertebra at a time, till we're standing nice and tall. Maybe rolling those shoulders back, a nice tall posture. Taking our hands up to the sky, making fists with our hands, and we put them just gently on our lower back. And we're going into a modified camel. So we gently press in, and maybe you just look up at the top of this wall. Maybe you can look up higher to the ceiling. So this is a nice emotion releasing pose. This pose is also a great online break. So if you're doing a lot of learning and you're sitting at a desk, this pose helps stretch everything out. So we just take a deep breath. You should still be able to breathe in this pose. We can release our hands and stand up tall. And the last pose that I'd like to show you today is a restorative pose. I love restorative poses, and this one is called legs up the wall. So I'm gonna go over to my wall, but you don't need a wall to do it. You can do it without one. And I sit down, and I'm going to swing my legs around and have them go literally up the wall. So here I am talking to you upside down, and I have my hands out to the side. So this pose, legs up the wall, is a nice relaxing pose. It gets your blood flowing in different ways. And you can stay here. You can even pause this video and stay here for a little bit longer before you want to. So typically in a restorative pose, we would be here for 3 to 5 minutes. But for right now, I want to show you what this is and share it with you. But I'm going to bring my knees in and then gently just roll to my side and then come on up. But legs up the wall is a great pose to be in for a much longer time than that. I like to do it if I've been on my feet all day too. It's really good if you are on your feet for a long, long time. So with that said, and with all of those poses we just did, we're going to end our simple little practice with a meditation. So this is a loving kindness meditation, and it goes much, much deeper than what I'm going to share with you today. We are just going to do the first part of it. So you can either take your hands to your heart, feeling your heartbeat, and what we're going to do, I'll say it first, and then Dana is going to repeat it after, and we're giving ourselves permission and sending out some wonderful vibrations into the world as well. You can close your eyes if you want, but you don't have to. And we're just going to say very quietly and gently, may I be happy.
May I be happy.
May I be healthy.
May I be healthy.
May I be safe.
May I be safe.
May we all live in peace.
May we all live in peace. The light in me honors the light in you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much for watching us today. And that is just a snapshot of things that we do in our Illuminate group.
Yes. If you want more information, you're welcome to visit my website at peacefulposeskidsyoga.com. Also, you can email me at info@peacefulposeskidsyoga.com. We would be glad to talk to you if you're interested or just want some more information. But thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Thank you.